Welcome to Synergize, unscripted conversations where we explore the evolving role of the financial advisor in an emerging AI-driven world. Join us as we bring together thought leaders across a range of disciplines and industry experts, sharing insights designed to help RIAs thrive in the industry of tomorrow.
Welcome back to Synergize. I'm Bill Capel, Director of Client Growth at Trade PMR, a Robinhood company.
And I'm Ryan Neal, Editorial Manager at Trade PMR Robinhood. You're listening to the Synergize podcast. And yes, welcome back indeed. Bill, it's been a while since I've seen you. How you been? And I guess to kick it off, what have you been listening to lately? I know you're a music guy. What's been on your playlist?
Great question, Ryan. You know, it's funny. I've got a 19 and a 22-year-old, so I'm pretty much listening to the most contemporary stuff that's out there right now. But my taste in music spans way back to the 60s and 70s and the 80s, and I split it between classic rock and roll and jazz. So, I love music, and I'm willing to listen to just about anything.
Nice. Well, for me lately, I've been on a solid rotation of Bob Dylan. I've been going through his entire discography. This morning, I'm up to like the late 70s. This morning, it was his Live at Budokan album, which is not my favorite, but I'm kind of committed to listening to all the albums in a row. So it's been a fun adventure. I love Bob and love his like evolution over time, which is probably a good segue into our episode today, Evolution Over Time. We've got an exciting guest today. He's a 31-year-old private wealth advisor at Concurrent Advisors named Ramin Abrams. He is a classically trained musician who made the pivot in his career towards becoming a financial advisor. It's a fascinating story. He wrote all about it on RA Reflections, which you can check out. We'll put the link in the story notes. And he's here to talk to us a bit about it. So Ramin, welcome to the Synergize podcast.
Thanks so much, Ryan and Bill, for having me today.
Well, it's great to have you, Ramin. And, as I look through your background and your resume, I couldn't help but think about going from a kindergartner, performing at Carnegie Hall, to incredible opportunities you've had as a professional musician over time. And I had to reflect back, on my own childhood. And I think Ryan experienced a similar kind of background because we grew up with music. I remember started playing, oddly enough, the cello, but never quite got to where you were. And then I switched over and played the saxophone most of my life and guitar. And I got to tell you, it's an incredible experience. It's something that stays with you. The other thing I wanted to bring up for our listeners is that you're also a very accomplished endurance athlete. And, I can share with you that, Ramin, you did Ironman at Lake Placid. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was an incredible, taxing experience. I've been running marathons. I've done about 8 marathons across the New York City Marathon and LA Marathon. And I saw the opportunity to enroll for the Lake Placid Ironman. And as an endurance athlete, running was my forte. As we're talking about music, I'll use the terminology. And biking and swimming never was a focus, but the discipline, the time, the effort, and the accomplishment of completing Ironman was one of the bucket list items for me. So I enrolled. I had about 7 months of training, and it was one of the most incredible and hard experiences of my life. Being a financial advisor, being a musician, and living in one of the flattest cities in the country, New York City, training to bike up essentially 90-degree angle hills in Lake Placid, New York was definitely a challenge, but one of the best experiences of my life.
Going up that hill was tough, but coming down was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing I'd share with you is that I did that event in 2001, 2002, and 2003. And I got to tell you, Ramin, that was one of the most challenging Ironman courses I've ever done. So congratulations. And, where you excelled in your career at music, I kind of petered out after I finished up in high school. And then I went into endurance athletics and did that for a number of years. So
I think you guys are both nuts because I was a swimmer my whole life, and biking. I still bike. I love biking, just mainly for transportation. Running to me was always a punishment. When I messed up on swim team, and we'd get out and go run laps. So I would consider doing a triathlon if I could do the swimming and the biking part, and someone else does the running.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think we've got a great opportunity for this to build a team right here because Ramin's the runner, and the only reason I ever ran because someone was chasing me. And then, Ryan, you're the swimmer, and I'm the cyclist. To be honest with you, that's been my strong suit. So I say once we wrap up this program today, maybe we go out and hit the trail. But it's great stuff.
Well, I think we'll let you do that for the most part. You did this article for us on RA Reflections. It resonated with a lot of our readers, I think, because you, in some ways, like lived a dream that maybe many people have. People that grew up working as one thing but playing music in their free time. You kind of realized that dream and then pivoted to another career. So, why don't you share a bit about your personal story for those that haven't read it on RA Reflections, and then we can go from there.
Sure. Thanks for the opportunity. As born and raised in New York City, I started the cello at age 2.5 through a Japanese instrumental training program called Suzuki and School for Strings. So at a very young age, I started learning ear training, the simple next steps of what music is, from rhythm to other aspects of music. And starting at age 2.5, built my repertoire, had opportunities to perform, and around high school age started to really excel at the instrument. I made a shift from cello to double bass because I wanted to expand my repertoire, not only classical music, but more contemporary music and jazz. So at around 12, 13 years old, I shifted to double bass, and that's really when I took off as a musician. I got into Juilliard pre-college, and I was able to study with the principal bass player of the New York Philharmonic, and the caliber of musicians that I was surrounded by was just incredible. The amount of talent and the amount of discipline that I kind of lived and breathed through my days at Juilliard really set me up for success as a musician. So once I learned the technical aspects of being a classically trained musician, I was able to go out and explore contemporary music and jazz. And as a very outgoing young adult, I was able to reach out to a lot of professional musicians, teachers, organizations, and orchestras to participate, to perform with. And it was pretty incredible growing up in New York City, finishing school at 3 and having a gig downtown at 7 p.m.
It sounds rad.
So talk a little bit more about that journey. You in the article, you hit some real significant milestones with your brother, as I recall. And at what point did you kind of realize that, what, I've really been very, very successful, but perhaps I need to begin to think about how I might want to change the motif or redirect my talent in other ways. Share with us a little bit about that transition you went through and how you actually found financial services as a platform to continue to build on your skills and talent that you honed as a musician.
Yeah, sure. As a musician, especially training at a conservatory level, you learn to listen deeply, interpret emotion, and guide my audiences, through a transformative experience. So as a financial advisor, you do the same, but with financial planning. I would say that music is a language in itself, and there are a lot of paths that you can cross and make dramatic pivots in your life, but they don't seem so dramatic because that language can interpret and communicate with other aspects of life or other careers. So as a financial advisor, I graduated UCLA with a bachelor's in music. I went on tour in Italy with the chamber ensemble, and I came back and I was looking for what the next step looks like. And I made this pivot to the financial services industry, but because I learned so much about discipline and listening and emotions and guiding people through my performances, I felt that I could really take any step out of music and find a way to translate my experience, my training, and my discipline as a musician to another career. And financial services was one that I was really passionate about. At a young age, I benefited from the fruits of my mom being a financial advisor at Merrill Lynch at the World Trade Center. Upon having my bar mitzvah, all those checks went straight into the stock market. So I was always fascinated with financial services and equities and investing. So I made that shift, and working with people and service was the model that I wanted to abide by, that I want to live by, where my musical experiences, understanding the inconsistencies of being a gig musician, understanding that there's going to be ups and downs in terms of how busy you are, how many performances you're getting, understand the different verticals and monetization strategies of being a musician. That can be translated to business owners, to real estate developers, to investors. And my role as a financial advisor is providing my clients a transformative experience to help them identify, and what we wrote about in RA Inflections, what their motif is, what their theme of life is, and helping people find harmony in their lives.
That's great. Well, one thing we think a lot about here on the podcast is that next generation, right? Helping advisors, connect with new investors, expand their business, or even connect with new advisors, bringing in new talent, stuff like that. And something that I love about your story is that I think everyone in life goes through some sort of pivot, right? Or at least most of us, where we're kind of going along maybe through our teens and into college and our 20s. And at some point we have to make a shift, something, whether it's we have kids or we have a career change or, I don't know, stock market crash, whatever it may be. A lot of times just pushes us towards a certain move. What I love is this next generation of investors out there. A lot of people have been doing very, very well on their own, investing, and now maybe reaching a point where they are considering making a change, going towards an advisor, looking for something different. So I was wondering if you could talk about that at all. I mean, have you found that in your own practice? Have you brought in clients that maybe have done well investing on their own and are just looking for something different? And how have you sort of navigated their own pivots in life?
Sure. I'd say especially the past 8 to 10 years, retail investing, there's been a lot of success in it, from the COVID era and meme stocks and just being long the S&P 500 or, individual stock picking. And we've just kind of seen, as the tide comes in, all the boats rise. That is something that has driven a lot of retail investors to say, hey, I think I could do this on my own. The reason I think my pivot and why my story matters in terms of clients and investors potentially making a shift to working with a financial advisor is finances are an extremely emotional aspect to how people look at money. And I'd say that letting go of old patterns, just as I left behind kind of a familiar identity in music, sometimes people need to make that next step in terms of releasing outdated financial habits or fears. Some people may have investments, but not make subsequent or dollar cost averaging strategies. They haven't put a financial plan together. They haven't considered tax optimization strategies. So the wealth and breadth that a financial advisor in a firm can provide someone allows younger investors or people that have been doing it on their own kind of get out of those old patterns and outdated financial habits. Also, it's learning a new language. We live and breathe financial services. We are the personal CFOs to investors. We guard, protect, preserve, and grow their assets. And over the past 9 years in my career, I've been able to master the language of finance. And clients are trying to do that. Working with a financial advisor, I'm essentially that translator and that executor. And then lastly, I'd say a lot of investors that have been doing it on their own, sometimes they haven't experienced a full correction to understand the impacts of that and how to protect. So when we're talking about facing uncertainty, as advisors, we face that with courage. We are bold. We don't let emotions get in the way of making prudent investments. So when clients are vulnerable in these uncertain or volatile situations, working with an advisor, making that shift, taking that next step forward, making that pivot, puts them in a really great place for the long term.
I want to drill down on it a little bit, Ramin, because what's interesting to me is, and I noted this in your story in RIA Reflections. I have this theory that we all transition and pivot, every 5 to 7 years, and we feel it. We know something's coming, but we really fail often to reposition ourselves. And I think you're a great example of someone who recognized that there was a pivot on the horizon, there was a transition on the horizon, and you jumped on it. I want to bring it back to your experience as a musician, and particularly under some of the folks you studied with. You mentioned the fact that when you were taking lessons from some of the most talented people in the world, and as you were learning music, right? You never really stopped learning. As you're learning music, share with us an example of when one of your teachers was guiding you through a transition from a musical perspective, and perhaps not necessarily telling you you're wrong, but offering you a path that perhaps would turn out better in the piece you were working on, and how that may parallel the way in which you approach helping people transition or deal with those transitions in their personal lives.
That's a big question, Bill. I'll do my best to respond. I would say, as I mentioned, I played cello from age 2.5 to age 12 or 13, and then I shifted to double bass. And just from a sound perspective, the cello is a beautiful, warm sound, and the double bass can be beautiful and warm, but it's a much deeper sound. Just from the physical aspects of the instrument, a cello is smaller, the strings are thinner, a bass is much bigger, and the strings are much thicker. One of the challenges I faced after making that switch from cello to bass was I loved the sound of a cello, and I couldn't make the bass sound like a cello immediately. And I love the performance aspect of music. I wanted to be a solo double bass player, and there are very few of those out there. I want solo concertos with major orchestras. And my teacher really helped me build the tenacity, the physical tenacity of mastering the instrument on a physical level so that I can explore the instrument more emotionally and more musically. And with that were etudes and practice techniques to really build my craft, where I'm not fighting against the instrument itself. It's working with me, and I can explore the world of music, the world of expression, the world of emotion. So over a period of 4 years, there was an intense level of practice and discipline in mastering this craft. I'm talking about finishing school at 3 p.m. and being in the Juilliard practice room until 10 p.m. Constantly practicing the instrument so that essentially I wasn't fighting against it. The instrument was working for me. I wasn't working for the instrument. And I think that translates to clients making pivots and going through transitions as well. It's never about trying to find perfection. It's always about progress. And you said that in your initial comments, Bill. We're always looking to make progress on ourselves. And when you're making a change of managing things on your own to, working with others, you are becoming a delegator. You're being a business owner. You are putting the best people in front of you to help you achieve your goals at the best level you can. So I definitely see a relationship to some of those transitions and focuses and progressions that I experience with music and helping clients achieve the same.
It's not about saying no, right? It's about offering this idea and getting that individual to perhaps discover themselves a better path. And I'm sure that while your instructor could certainly help you through the mechanics of that transition from cello to double bass, at the end of the day, for a client, saying no is not always a good response. It's about helping them self-discover a path that will help them achieve this elusive goal of becoming better.
Sure, exactly.
Well, I thought that was a great answer, and I think Bill was trying to throw you a bit of a curveball there with that question, and I think Ramin nailed it. I think that was a great answer.
Thank you.
He's an endurance athlete. I got to give him a little bit of a challenge here. We just can't keep doing the same thing over again.
That's true. Well, I think I'm gonna move to wrap us up. But given what we opened the conversation with, I'm gonna throw it to Ramin. What are you listening to these days? What's on the playlist?
Similar to Bill, I was just at the gym this morning, and one of my goals is I was listening to Crosby, Stills, and Nash, "Sweet Judy Blue Eyes," which is about a 6 minute and 50-second song. And my goal this morning was to get a mile in on the treadmill before the song ended. So I was pumped up for this call today, so you guys helped me get the push with that. So I'm a big fan of rock and roll, but classical music always kind of stays a big part of my life and in my everyday. I have records playing at the office, as the team is doing work. And was giving last night a listen to Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony, one of the largest orchestras, one of the most vibrant changes for movements, an amazing piece of music.
All right, we're going to ask you to create a playlist for us.
Will do.
So you help us get through our daily routine. That was great. That was great. I'm a huge CSNY fan, and I can hear the music playing right now.
Yeah, just as kind of closing comments, given the pivot I made from a musician to a financial advisor, I understand what it's like to start over. In anyone's life, there's a change. If that is a business change, a career change, a life change, having kids, getting divorced, starting a new business, a business failing, and having the courage to start a new one. Life is a roller coaster, and when you make these pivots, again, it's all about progress. And I love the music background because when you dedicate yourself to learning an instrument at a high caliber and conservatory level, your motivation and persistence continues on. So I really love the feeling of being able to progress and taking your past and using that to grow your future.
Great. Well, that's fantastic closing words. So Ramin, thank you so much for being on the podcast. We appreciate having you.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to be here.
And for everybody listening, thank you for tuning in. We hope you, wherever you're getting this podcast, take the time to like, subscribe. If you like what you heard, share it with others. And we'll see you on the next podcast.
I too want to thank you for listening. And I want to thank our guest, Ramin Abrams, today for joining us with a great story of transition and success. And I want to remind you to tune into our next episode where we'll share even more insights and strategies to help you grow your business. And remember, the challenge is yours to take advantage, to take action with what the future holds.
If you want to join the conversation or connect with us, please visit us at synergizepodcast.com. This content is provided for general information purposes only. The views expressed by non-affiliated guest speakers are their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinion of Trade PMR or its affiliates. Trade PMR and its affiliates do not endorse any guest speakers or their companies and therefore give no assurances as to the quality of their products and services. This channel is not monitored by Trade PMR. Trade PMR does not provide investment advice, tax advice, or legal advice. Trade PMR is a member of FINRA and SIPC. Trade PMR Inc. is registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, and the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board, MSRB. Trade PMR provides brokerage and account services to registered investment advisors. Custodial services provided by First Clearing. First Clearing is a trade name used by Wells Fargo Clearing Services, LLC. Member SIPC, a registered broker-dealer and non-bank affiliate of Wells Fargo & Company. Copyright 2025. Trade PMR Inc. For a transcript of this episode with sources, visit synergizepodcast.com.